So far this camera is giving me a tough time. Alright, here we go. Congruent triangles. So first off, when we talk about congruent shapes or congruent polygons, anytime we have congruent shapes, there's some characteristics that we need to know about those congruent shapes. What does it mean that they are congruent? Okay, and we've talked about that word congruent many times. What does congruent mean? The same. So they are the same size. They are the same shape. Okay, so when we say congruent, we mean that they're the same, or we mean that they are equal. So when we look at that word equal, and we're talking about a shape, we're talking about the parts of the shape. And the different parts of the shape we have are the angles and the sides. So when we talk about that, we're going to say that they have equal angles. And we also have equal side lengths. So everything should match from the congruent parts. From one to the other, there should be some matching. Okay, so when we have those matching, the word that we use for matching is corresponding. Corresponding parts, which we've already talked about corresponding angles. And we use that idea of if I go from one table to the other table and I'm asking you, if I told you to move tables, where would you sit? Right? So if Huda's sitting here, and I tell her to move back to that table, where is she going to sit? This is Huda. Well, if I told that there's no one sitting there, and I told this whole table to move, where would Huda sit back here? Yeah, in Jeremiah's spot. Okay? If I told Huda to move to this table over here, if Huda had to come over to this table, where would she sit? Yeah, where's Maya? Yeah. So remember, corresponding means that we're like matching. We're putting those parts together. So when we talk about corresponding parts, we're talking about our matching angles and sides. What matches? So which parts are equal from one shape to the other shape? All right, and then our last thing we're going to talk about here before we do our two examples is a congruence statement. And we've written congruent statements, but we've only done it with like angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. This time we're going to be doing it with the whole shape. So when we name a triangle, how many points are there in a triangle? Or how many angles? 3. So we're going to use 3 letters. So we're going to say like triangle blank is congruent to triangle blank. But how we write those triangles is really important, and how we put the letters down. Because this congruent statement is going to show the reader whoever's reading your statement the corresponding parts. So based on that congruent statement, they should know exactly which angles match which angles. They don't need a picture. They should be able to just look at this statement that we wrote and say, oh, I know this matches with this matches with that matches with that. Okay, in this chapter, we're going to be dealing with congruent statements with triangles. In the next upcoming chapters, we'll deal with like rectangles and squares and polygons. So we won't always put a triangle there, but that's just when we do congruent triangles. You'll see that triangle symbol. So that's how we name a triangle. All right, you're going to get a glue in. Did you get one yet? I don't know where they went. I thought they were over here. Thanks for your patience, you guys. We're going to work on this. Give us one moment here. Okay. Cool. Alright, so get that glued in. If you want to take out 3 colors, you can share color pencils. Put them on top of the bin so you can share. I know that color pencils are getting scarce because some people keep hoarding them. Alright, here we go. And the first one, we're going to start by talking about our corresponding parts here. So when I look at my angles, I want to know what angles correspond to each other, which angles match here. So for example, if I look at angle U, when I look at angle U, what angle does that match with on the other triangle? Good. What tells you that it goes with angle X? Because they're not like, to me it doesn't look like they're in the same position. To me it's like U and W would maybe go together. Good. The arc says that they are congruent. So angle U is congruent to angle X. If you don't have a nice sharp colored pencil, maybe just write it in regular pencil and then underline, you could. Alright, what do we got for another angle over here? Angle S. We have those 2 arcs there. So when I look at angle S, I know angle S will match with angle W. And that leaves angle T that has these 3 arcs to match with angle Y, which I can't really highlight those because my pencil isn't very sharp. So angle T matches with angle Y. Alright, now as I look at my sides, when I name congruent sides, I do want to put that segment line above the sides. So if we started with like SU, segment SU, SU has 1 tick mark. So what is that going to correspond with? XW, good, because that's the other one that has 1 tick mark. So it's congruent to XW. Now if you look at that between our sides and our angles that we matched, SU, that's my 2 arcs and 1 arc. That goes between my 1 arc and 2 arcs. So it should match kind of those 2 sides that it was already going against. All right, what about UT? UT is going to go with XY. Good. How did you know? What? The bottom goes with the top? 3 tick marks. Beautiful. Okay, 3 tick marks. As you kind of like look at the shape more and more, it's a little bit easier to see how things match up. Which leaves our last side, ST, or you could say TS, either way. Now, if the tick marks weren't there, I know that ST matches with what angles over here? S matches with W, T matches with Y. So ST would match with WY. So even if we can't see the tick marks or they're not written there for us, we can always match it with like the angles it's connecting. It's going from what point to what point, and how did that angle match with another angle. Okay, so for our congruence statement, we're going to say triangle. Should actually write congruence statement here. Okay, congruence statement, triangle. Now the first one, it doesn't matter the order we put it in. We can name it however we want. So do we want UST, STU, TUS, TSU, SUT? Okay, triangle SUT is congruent with. Now we want to tell our reader how it matches. So the second triangle really matters how we name it now. We can't just pick any order. We have to match it. So as I look at S was my purple one, so I'm going to think purple here. So I need to start with my purple angle, the one that matched S. Because S comes first, I want whatever matches S to come first over here. So which one matches with S on this side? W matches with S. So it's got to be W. Now I need U. U is my green angle here, so I'm going to color code it because coloring helps me. U is my green. It's the one with the 1 arc. So it has to go with the angle with the 1 arc here. So U matches with X. And then T is my orange. That's my 3 arcs. And what does that match with on the other triangle? Y. So it is really important here. The first triangle, we can name it however we want. But however we name that first triangle, the second triangle has to match. Okay, and now that works with the sides as well. If I look at SU, the first 2 letters, does SU match with WX? Yep. What about UT? Does UT match with XY? Yep. And then if I look at the outside letters, ST, does that match with WY? Yeah, it's exactly what we wrote. Insane. All right, so we have this next one here. One more problem today, and then we have a little bit of some practice that we're going to try together. And then we're going to be done with today, and we're going to move on with our lives. All right, so on this next one, we're given this congruent statement. I'm going to write it here just a little bit bigger. That way I can kind of use some colors with it. So triangle MNL is congruent with triangle ACL. I'm going to just write it a little bit bigger so I can color code it. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to mark this triangle, these triangles up. So to mark them up, we're going to start by matching their parts. So if I start with M, I'm going to look at angle M here. I'm going to give that guy one little arc. And I need to match him with the angle over here that it goes with. And sometimes when we look at these pictures, especially when we start getting pictures that look really almost like they're all the same angles, we really have to depend on this congruent statement. So M matches with which part over here? A, because they're the first letters. So it has to match with A. So A will also get that one arc. All right, then we have N. N comes next in our congruent statement. So I'm going to give that one 2 arcs. How did you know C, Tyke? Good, it's corresponding. This is kind of the part where it's corresponding, is with N moved over here, what would it match with? C, because they're in the same spot. And then it so happens in this case that L matches with L. That's not always going to be the case. If they share a point, sometimes it doesn't match. It's a little goofy here, but they do match. So L on this side will get 3, and L on this side will get 3. Okay, so now we matched our angles, but in congruent triangles, what else can match? The sides, good. And so again, we're going to learn how to read that congruent statement so that we match the sides. So first we have MN. I'm going to think about these first 2 parts. MN is going to match with AC. So M to N, I'll give that 1 tick mark. Matches with AC. AC. That gets 1 tick mark. So now we're looking at the sides. All right, now I have NL. And NL will match CL. So N to L gets 2 tick marks. C to L also gets 2 tick marks. And then we have our last side, which can be a little bit hard to read on this one because we have to match the other 2 letters that haven't been matched yet. We did M and N and L. What 2 letters have we not put together yet? ML. The outside letters. ML goes with what are the outside letters here? AL. Maybe.